Welcome to the Traitors, a Traitors podcast. My name is David Bloomberg, and I'm your host for Season 1 of the Traitors Canada. The Traitors features deep dives into every episode of the multi-award-winning hit TV competition show, The Traitors, as well as interviews with contestants from the shows. I'm already stumbling over my words because I'm so excited about this week's guest. But before we get to him, we are talking about the Traitors Canada Episode 9. And as I said, we have an amazing guest welcoming one of the winners of the Traitors New Zealand. So this is your spoiler alert. If you don't already know, I'm giving you 3, 2, 1. Welcome, Sam Smith.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's very nice to be here. Oh, it was so good when I won the Traitors. It was great. I love talking to people about it. It's great.
Yeah, unfortunately, it came at a time when Matthew wasn't able to host and, episode by episode. And I considered jumping in then, much like I have for here, but I had so much stuff going on at the time. And then it just happened so quickly. And I don't know why they put it on at the same time as the Australian Traitors. And it was.
Exactly right. And I'm a big fan of the Traitors podcast. I've been listening to it the whole time through since when I was on the show. It was it was my therapy once we had recorded it and we had to wait for the 6 months until our show was on air. So I've listened to every single one, and I in fact considered messaging Matthew to be like, "Hey, can I host it?" I'm probably not allowed to, but I would have loved to heard the coverage.
You could have used a fake name, Joe Smith instead of Sam Smith.
Yeah, that's great. I've probably got a cousin called that somewhere. We had 3 Smiths on our season of the Traitors as well, which is great.
That's New Zealand. They were probably all related,
That's
somehow
true.
or another.
Yeah, there are 9 of us here and 5 of us are Smiths.
Yeah, I was a guest a couple times on another podcast to discuss the season, and so I was happy to be able to talk about it then. Obviously, you're a little bit biased. Obviously, I thought it was a really fun season. I felt it was different than other countries' seasons, and I almost put it in a different category for a couple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One is because despite the host always introducing it and saying 18 strangers, it was like, no, like 1 stranger and 17 people who knew each other.
The reason he said that was because he didn't know who any of us were. Paul Henry, the host, had no idea who any of us were. We were the strangers to him.
Okay.
And then a couple of us had worked together before.
Yeah. You had introduced spouses,
Yeah. Someone, Dylan Reeve at Anna Reeve, Dylan Reeve is... Anna Reeve is married to Dylan Reeve's cousin, so they're legitimately family. Justine Smith and I work in comedy stuff all the time. We'd been to Disneyland together. I've worked with Matt Heath on Taskmaster New Zealand, and of course Lauren was my is my friend from Dancing with the Stars. So yeah, it's New Zealand. We know everyone. You could get 20 random people from New Zealand, and 2 of them would be related. 3 of them will work in the same place, and 4 of them will have gone to high school together. It's a small place. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think that I feel like that didn't really. I don't think that affected the game as much as people say it did, because we know each other, but we've never played a social deduction game with each other under the pressures of being filmed for television. It's so different to what people said. I think it didn't make as much of a difference as people say it did.
Yeah,
I think one of the things that did make it feel different is that we're New Zealand and we are a country where we very much avoid conflict. I feel like Canada's a little bit like that as well. We're not quite as brash as Americans or British people or Australians. We are the we're the we're the
You're the nice ones.
relax back and
Uh,
your words, but yes, you're right. We're very, very nice.
yeah, I mean the other thing was the prize money was significantly smaller, and I feel like the traitor that made it the furthest on your season before you heartlessly got rid of him, he was even playing for charity. He wasn't even going to keep the money. He was going to give it away to charity. So the fact that you cut him, he was like, okay, it just goes to someone else instead of the people I was going to give it to. Whereas I think in the US, well, I know in the US, it was first of all, a larger amount. And second of all, anyone who saw that final episode and especially the reunion knows there were very, very hurt feelings.
Oh my gosh, yes. It was great. The thing about that is that Brooke Howard-Smith, who was the final traitor on our season, is a millionaire. He does not need that money. Some of us are comedians who who need that money. I used my winnings to pay off my student loan. Like,
okay.
It's not the sort of but we weren't in it for the money. We were in there to play this amazing fun game. It was and that's why none of us ran to. Well, that's why only one person ran at the beginning of our season to get that money, because we were just so keen to do it. Because it's the greatest format on TV. It's so fun. It's so immersive. And I don't know about other people, but I got fit for this show, for my version of the show. I went on runs, David. I'm not going to waste going on runs to sprint over it and just get out there in one morning.
Well, what you said is part of what makes it different. You guys were there and having fun, as opposed to, like I said, on some of the others, the goal is to win the money. And some of them have had fun doing it or trying to do it. And it's good if you could have fun, because, usually, 1 to 2 or 3 people win the money. And it's just, it seemed more like a group of friends getting together for a big game of Mafia or something like that. And that's why I tend to put it into a slightly different category. I'm not saying it was a bad category. I'm just saying it played differently, in part because you were there to have fun. And I enjoyed watching you have fun. I'm going to say something here that some people are going to get upset with me about. I'm worried about the upcoming US season, because it's all reality stars. And some of them are not from competition shows, and I think may just be there to, peacock around and, show what studs they are, or to settle old scores or whatever. And I'm not sure how much game some of them are going to play. And I watch the Traitors for the game.
Yes, yeah. I love that because Traitors US played on Peacock. I love that they've named it after what these characters are going to do in this next season. They're going to peacock around. Yeah, well, I think you're right. But I think I've talked to lots of American people, or people have mentioned it online. Just the fact that our New Zealand one was a bit more relaxed than the drama you get on their one. And I think it's just a thing that you kind of get used to what this is hugely stereotyping for countries as well. Like, not everyone is like this in both places, but you're probably a bit more used to seeing that drama on TV. And whereas when we see that drama on TV, we go, wow, look at that American show where they're all dramatic all the time. It's just what those people are used to. So I guess that's kind of what you come to expect. Our one didn't have as much as that. So people be like, oh, I kind of miss the drama from the usual American versions of shows like Survivor.
Yeah. And, another aspect of it, like you mentioned, that Brooke is a millionaire. Well, Ari from the US season, also a multimillionaire. Yeah. And he was still very angry when Suri took him out, or, got the others to take him out. So
that was crazy, right? What an amazing ending to that show. I because we'd seen the American version before we went in the house, I went and being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to, as a faithful being there at the end of the show, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm Quentin. I can't believe that. I've become Quentin. I can't believe it. I tried to lean over and sort of be a bit more like Andy was, because she was very because they were very cool about it. And yeah, that's something that once you've been on the show, you compare yourself to everyone on the show, and you'll be like, oh, which one am I?
Yes.
I think
Well,
as
you were
soon as
not. You were neither Quentin nor Andy, so we will
yes,
definitely
that's
say
right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, and watching this episode of Canada, this episode 9, there were a couple of moments where I went like, "Oh God, I'm Donna. I was Donna."
I don't think you were ever Donna. I think. I mean, we'll get into it.
We'll get there.
You. Well, I won't say you will be, but I think Gurleen and Leroy have the potential to be you.
Yeah.
Or they have the potential.
Me and Anna. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they have the potential to be Quentin and Andy. So
Yeah.
we will
Oh,
see
boy.
which they are. But
I just got shivers being like talked about like at the same time as Quentin and Andy. Like I was like, oh yeah, they were on a big proper TV show, and then I'm like, oh yeah, we were too. That's great.
That's like, yeah, I mean, the other podcast network that the main one I podcast for, Rob has a podcast, is Rob Sesternino was a player on Survivor on an early season, and he was a big fan. And then he went on All Stars, and he was surrounded by these people. He was all excited, like, oh my gosh, there are all these people that have been on the shows. It's like, without, in his mind, he wasn't putting together, like, he was in the final 3.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing. So amazing.
So what, other than what we just talked about, how have you been enjoying the Traitors Canada?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's kind of like a nice nostalgia trip as well for us. And but also I really like the players. And I think listening to your previous podcast, I think you've been quite mean to the remaining faithfuls on the show.
Yeah,
I
probably.
I think they played a really good game. And I think what people forget is that when you're a faithful on the show, you have literally no control over anything. You get one vote, you get a small percentage of what happens in the round table. But every night you go to bed and you might not make the next day. You're just so out of control. And the way to get around it, a way to survive in the game, is to be clueless and not a threat. Which is what Donna and Trevon and Mickey previously have all been doing. Gurleen and Leroy not quite so much. They're showing a bit of strategy, which you need later in the game. But I think they've just played an absolutely brilliant game to last until the end. Almost to the point that when I was watching this week, I was like, did Trevon pretend to have an asthma attack in episode 1? So people didn't think he would be a threat, so they'd keep him in the game. I've got to that sort of level of thing. And that's the other thing.
Go ahead.
That's the other thing about the show as well. Like, you're so immersed in it at the time, and because you can't trust anyone, if you for a moment you start trusting one person, when you go to bed that night, you'll be like, yeah, cool, I'm with this person. No, wait, that person could be a traitor. And you can never lean back and relax at any stage in it. Whereas the traitors they've got full control.
Right.
On top of that, they have the stress of being that. So I think it's harder to be a traitor on the show, definitely. But you're just so clueless. That's the only way to make it to the end. So you kind of have to do that if you are a faithful. So
I mean, I have definitely been hard on Trevon and very psychic Donna, as I call her.
And don't get me wrong, psychics are full of crap too. I'm with you.
Yes. And Mickey, I've been less hard on just because I keep forgetting he's actually there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will disagree with you when you say they've done a good job to get to this point. I think they've done a poor job to get to this point because they have gotten to this point because they were so bad. Like, they've never been a threat to the traitors. They've never been a threat to anyone else. And therefore they could keep them around. And whereas we'll even get to a point later where Mike says, he looks around the round table and he says something like, I feel like everyone here but Trevon is a quieter person who avoids conflict. And it's like, yeah, because those are the type of people who survive.
Exactly right. And you can't take out the game unless you've done that. Like
Right.
you have to, if
Right.
you're a faithful, you have to do that. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
I think I
it's
just
the
want to
smart
see
way of doing it.
I just want to see someone who's doing it on purpose. Like I think
Yeah.
Leroy
Yeah.
and Gerline are more doing it on purpose. Maybe not 100%,
Yeah.
but they're more
Yeah.
doing it on purpose. Whereas Trevon, you could tell he's not, because he's throwing pens across the room. He's having breakdowns, and
He's
so
amazing. I think his surname's Smith as well. I think that's why I
oh
like him.
okay.
I think he's a fellow Smith like me. So, but yeah, it's I think these are. I think, and what I felt like throughout the game
Mm-hmm.
when I was playing is that I had to hide that I was a smart man. Like,
Right.
I felt like that was a thing I had to do.
Right. And that's, so you were doing it on purpose as opposed to,
Yeah,
we get, Donna and Trevon giving us confessionals saying, well, I have no idea what's going on,
But I said that as well. And I also didn't know what was going on. But yeah, it's great. It's a great game.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into this here, and we'll start by setting up the Traitor game. So hopefully you haven't lied to me already, because we will lie to each other once during the podcast. The lie can be big or small about the traitors, yourself, or anything else, as long as it is a complete fabrication. However, for anyone who hasn't heard this before, we are looking for fake facts, not opinions. Like, I can't say I love the way Donna has played the game, which after our discussion just now would be an obvious lie anyway.
Yeah.
As I mentioned previously, any lie involving numbers needs to be like an order of magnitude. So I can't say I have 9 pages of notes for this episode when I actually have 8. I'd have to say I have 80 pages. And then at the end of the episode, we'll put our traitor hunting skills to the test and see if we can detect the other person's lie. So I know you're faithful, but are you ready to betray me?
Oh, I'm quite nervous about it, but yes, I'm
Okay.
ready to try.
Okay. You're probably good, because I usually get so into the episode that I forget to like pay attention to someone who might be lying. So
I do the same thing listening to the podcast. Every time I'm like, cool, I'm going to listen. I'm going to get it this time. And I get to the end and there's the reminder that someone's lied. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that.
yes. Well, it's funny because someone commented on one of the YouTube versions something like David got this wrong at 20 minutes, and it was like, well, that was when I was lying. So it's like, yeah, gotta listen to the whole thing to see, oh, that's what he was lying about. And I also had a friend one time call me and say, and this was the first time I was on with Matthew, and I think I've mentioned this before here, I said something about 2 daughters. And my friend was like, you have sons. What are you talking about? I'm like, wait till the end. So, all right. Well, then let's go ahead and jump into it. And we ended last episode with the remaining players celebrating madly because they finally banished a second traitor. And that continues as we open this week with Mike, in my opinion, taking a little too much credit, saying he worked his magic for them.
I think that is such it sort of stuck out as quite an obvious thing to do. But then, of course, we know he's a traitor. Like, if someone comes in straight away, it's like, oh, didn't I do well just then voting out a traitor?
Yeah. Leroy says this should close the book on the whole red team theory from the airport, which finally, I mean, I know they were right. I know they were right, but it just got tiring to hear about it week after week.
We had the same thing in our season with a car chat that we just in the game we just hated it. So it was nice.
Oh, is that the one? I hope I'm not misremembering which season is which. Was that the one where someone misheard a conversation by a car and then recited it as if gospel truth over and over again?
Exactly. Yes, that's right. Yeah, Julia heard Robbie say that we had decided to murder someone talking to Kings, and that became an ongoing thing. We all knew that Robbie had just misspoken. She meant to say that we had banished someone, or she just said murder rather than it was so clear to everyone else that was just a slip of the tongue that we that we just wrote it off, and for it to still keep coming up, and for someone to talk about it in episode 9 of a show
Yes.
when it happened in, I think, episode 1 or 2, we were just like, come on. We don't need that anymore.
Yes. And we've seen those before. And then the funny thing was on Australia season 2, I feel like, when there was an actual slip of a tongue by a traitor, people didn't pay any attention to it, and it got away with
it. She just laughed it off.
Yeah.
What was her name? That was
I can't remember
celebrity
now.
lady.
Yeah,
she was really good.
Now. Yeah.
So until Bad Sam voted off.
Yes. All right. Well, with that,
we'll remember that later.
Yes. We head to Traitors Tower, where Kareen tells Mike what he already knew, that he needs to blackmail someone who will either become a traitor or die, which is not really much of a decision. But, Mike.
Do you think anyone would ever choose to die and not become a traitor? I just don't see that ever happening, ever. I don't know why this is a rule.
I mean, Quentin, who we were talking about a little while ago, has claimed that if he were ever made a traitor, he would have quit. And so I if they had gotten to blackmail, would he have actually quit? I don't know. I mean, he was
surely not.
He was pretty high and mighty about the whole thing. And, so I think they just make it so it's like, well, we're giving you a choice. It's not like we're not giving you a choice. It's like, the same choice that the mugger gives you, your money or your life,
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll give you the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an amazing season if we ever see someone turn down that final thing, because it would screw up all the other faithfuls as well. Like, if you didn't show up to breakfast the next day, people would presume, at that stage of the game, there's going to be a blackmail. So that person turned it down. It would just make so much more confusion among your fellow.
Well, they started to. Well, when we eventually get to breakfast here and 2 people are missing, they start talking about that. Yes. Like, oh my gosh, did 2 people turn it down?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It would be so random for that to not happen. And man, I got major flashbacks when Corinne showed up to breakfast early when we had 3 missing on our season when it happened. And it really throws a spanner in the works.
Yes. But before then, Mike has a choice. He goes through it, and he eventually chooses the person that you predicted to me ahead of time, Mickey.
Yes.
So Mickey is actually going to have to do something in the game. He opens the letter. He sees he has to go. He walks in thinking the robed figure is Leroy and calling out Leroy. And so he's stunned to see Mike. And
I love that moment. I thought that was so fantastic for him to be so sure. He said he was 100% sure it was going to be Leroy, and then for it to be Mike shows you that Mike is doing a much better job in the game than maybe we're seeing as viewers.
Yes. And it also shows me that despite what Mickey said, he wasn't just pretending to be gullible. So even Mickey knows that, okay, now people, like you said, people are going to know there's 2 traitors now, so they have their work cut out for them. And they discuss putting suspicion on Donna, and then Mickey goes back to noting that he thought it was Leroy, so they could try to point people in that direction too. And then we do get to the breakfast that we had mentioned, and I don't know why they're doing this whole charade of people walking in slowly when I guess now we do know. I guess because 2 don't end up walking in. When I wrote the note, I didn't know, but
yeah, that's right. I thought it was cool of Mike to do what Kuzi did in the previous episode. But man, that's a whole. If I was a traitor, I'd be so paranoid of doing something that a traitor had done previously that I would never have stuck my foot in exactly like the previous traitor had just been voted out would have done. That seems crazy to do that.
I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, apparently nobody else thought about it too. So, um, so Leroy and Mickey arrive together, and Leroy says Mike raised some good points about Kuzi, and he thinks Mike is a faithful. He tries to pry some thoughts out of Mickey, but says Mickey never really shares any. Next in is Donna, and Leroy doesn't know what to make of her, but Donna would have been a good person to recruit. Very psychic Donna, however, has her own ideas that maybe there were 4 originally. And her top suspect is Leroy and then Mike. Because, hey, if you keep going long enough, you'll eventually accidentally hit one, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, that's how the whole psychic biz works.
Yes. So Mike shows up and Leroy gives him props directly. So, maybe Mike wasn't going overboard the previous night and taking credit for using his magic to get rid of Kuzi.
Yeah, I think so. I reckon at that stage of the game, anything that sort of stands out like that, he definitely led the charge on that. And
yes,
if I was on the show again around that stage of the game, I'll be looking for the people that are very clearly voting out traitors, because they're going to be other traitors.
Mm-hmm.
It seems crazy to me that the traitors wouldn't properly team up together, because then you've got that advantage of numbers. But I suppose that's all Mike's strategy of getting people on board and then feeding them to the wolves straight away.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about it, I guess.
Yeah. So then there's the gong, and the 4 players realize Gurleen and Trevon aren't there, so they're baffled. And then I realize at first I'm like, what's going on? And then I realize, oh, it's going to be part of the mission. Donna suggests what we were just talking about, that they were all blackmailed. They're both blackmailed, and said no. I don't know. I might actually see Trevon doing that. His head might explode if he were a traitor. So, but not Gurley. Kareen walks in and she says something horrible has happened. 2 of them have been kidnapped in the night. And at that point, the remaining 4 realize it's part of the game and they laugh. Kind of like they laughed when she first informed them that Dom was out of the game, except that was real. So,
that Dom thing still gets to me, like it's such a. I was watching it. I was sitting right here when I watched it. I was watching it by myself, and I went, "Holy shit!" And then I was like, "Oh, I'm just watching a TV show. It's weird that I'm saying that." But that was crazy.
Yes,
right? It's going to be so interesting to, fingers crossed, hopefully find out one day.
Yeah, one day, 2 years from now, when all their contracts run out.
Exactly right. I'm actually, I've when the show, when Canada was announced, I actually added everyone on Instagram. So I've messaged every single person individually to say, when it started up, just to say like, oh, hey, good luck with the show. I hope it goes well. From the New Zealand, for someone who was on New Zealand Traitors, because Craig from season 1 of Australia did that for everyone in our show. And it was just a really nice sort of homely kind of like we're now in this big family. And so I did it. So now I've kind of had a few conversations with people on this series on Canada's Traitor, including Dom, including people that got voted out early on in the show. Like and so I feel quite connected with everyone on the show. So even when Dom, who I chatted with on Instagram, when he got voted out, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then it was great because I was a big fan of Nazila, because I'm a dentist. I used to be a dentist, like Nazila. Okay. So I was big on like, hey, Nazila's got to win this thing. She's got to be the winner of this one. And then I've been spoke with Mike as well. I think I've liked Mike because he said in our message that if I ever go to Toronto, I can go and stay with him.
Oh wow!
So I've always been like, yeah, this guy Mike, he's a good guy. Let's keep him in the game. We'll keep him around. I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, we were just talking about them getting kidnapped, and we went off into the Dom thing again.
Yes, that's right. Yes, so Dom did the thing, and then with the kidnap, we had a kidnap in our version, but they actually fully put bags on their head, drove them around town for like an hour before taking them to, in our version, it was a boat shed. In this one, it was just like a nice historical fort that
Yes.
looked amazing. It looked cool to hang out with. It was yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Now before they go, Mike tells us the mission is to find Trevon and Gurleen, but he wouldn't be upset if they don't find them, because maybe that means they don't come back into the game. And I almost
Yeah.
spit hot cocoa all over my computer as I laughed at that. So
Imagine if they did that. Just, hey, we're just taking out 2 other players from the game. Here you go, traders, have a win.
yeah, right, yeah. So they drive to the mission in 2 cars with Leroy and Mike in one, Mickey and Donna in the other. Leroy thinks Donna was blackmailed as a pawn, while Donna tells Mickey she gets why people would suspect her, but says she couldn't be a traitor, which is finally something I can agree with her on.
Yeah.
Mickey wastes no time in throwing his, or Mike wastes no time in throwing his new recruit under the bus, saying he suspects Mickey. Leroy tells us he'd be surprised if Mike is a traitor. Leroy, surprise!
Yeah, he's a surprise man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a strong strategy to get someone on board and then immediately get them out.
Yes.
Yeah, it saves you another week. It's a smart trader's move.
Yes. It's even a stronger strategy to do what I believe, and we'll talk about this more as we go through. I think that Mike has pocketed Leroy, that he has Leroy. So basically what Brooke thought he did with you, that you would never vote him out under any circumstance.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting as we get, we'll talk about it more at the end, but just all these discussions are leading to that with,
exactly
Leroy
right.
saying, there's no way Mike can be a traitor. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they arrive at that fort you mentioned. There's a catapult.
Oh, can I just say quickly as well? It's so important who you end up in the cars with to go to the missions. That's kind of the only time you get to talk in a group like that. And I would often end up with Anna or Brooke in a time. So we would work together in those times. Those cars are so crucial. And we got to choose what cars we went in. So it was always it was never decided by production. I presume that's something that they've done in Canada as well. And you see it often when you have one traitor in each car, like we had in this. So you end up, without even meaning to, getting the traitors working against each other, which is juicy drama.
Yes. All right. Well, like I said, they get to the fort. It has a bunch of wanted posters, portraits on the wall. The trapped players will send Morse code of one word to describe one of the posters. The players outside will choose a poster, take a key that's hanging on it, and catapult it into the fort. If that key unlocks one of 3 locks there, a bulb lights up to indicate it worked, and they can move on to the next one. If not, they can get another word to help. If they unlock 3 in 30 minutes, they'll win $1,000 for each key left on the board. Now, what's interesting to me is Trevon and Gurleen have only seen the 3 posters that they have. So they don't know how unique an identifying word might be. Like the first word they choose is chain, for a chain around the person's neck. But they don't know if other posters have chains too. And indeed, there is another person with a chain, because there's no way they're going to make it that easy. On the outside, they have 3 people taking Morse code notes to up their chances. They eventually figure out it's chain, pick a key. They happen to get the right one, but it took them 13 minutes out of their 30. So they have to pick up the pace here. And then I think, unless I wasn't paying attention, I think that's the last time we see the clock. So apparently,
that's a good point.
I don't remember, this is not my lie, I promise, I think that's the last time we see the clock. So okay.
I think I remember seeing a 7 at one point, but that might have been the 17 that you're talking about.
Okay.
I thought this was a much better version of the similar challenge that we had, one where we had to identify sheep. And it felt in the same realm as that, but much cooler. Like having the catapult was awesome.
Yes.
Having to picture the fact that they're in some sort of prison-y fort was amazing location. Yeah, I'm watching them play it. I was like, oh yeah, I want to have a turn at this. The only thing I would have added to the mission was somehow something that I like the ones where it makes you think that someone is lying to you, like it adds something related to the actual gameplay that which one of these people is good at deceiving me. If we added something that to this, I think it would be a pretty good mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next word they send is braid. And after a little bit of struggle with the code, they send the right key. Third up, they send scar, as Gurleen thinks other pictures will have tattoos, but not scars. And again, no, I guarantee you there's more than one. And in fact, there are three. I feel like Gurleen has never played the game Guess Who? Are you familiar with that game? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, everyone is.
I mean, this is basically Guess Who, but you don't have to get down to the actual person that was picked.
Yeah, that's right. I loved it when Scar came up because back in when was it? About 15 years ago, I was in a Scar band. So whenever Scar turns up, I'm a big fan of that. Made me think of my good old days listening to Real Big Fish, which is still to this day because they're my favorite band in the world. Sorry, do continue. I keep getting ahead of. I'm so excited about talking about the show that I get so excited about it. I think your notes are much more impressive than mine. Like I've made one page of notes, and like yours are very much more in depth than mine are.
Well, I try to recap the action here. Sometimes I go too far. So anyway,
absolutely not. You do it perfectly.
Okay, well, thank you. So they send tattoo. Oh, they don't get it right on the first try this time. They send tattoo, which makes it pretty easy. So all three right in supposedly 30 minutes, earns them $11,000, bringing the total to $87,500. And they do get Trevon and Gurleen back. So there's a downside to everything.
I loved watching them run out from behind the fort and run and hug them like it was like a child meeting their parents again. Like it was really. I think did Trevon say thank you for saving us or something like that as well?
Probably. It wouldn't have surprised me if he did.
And the other thing I love was when I always go to call Leroy Mike because he looks like Channing Tatum, who was Magic Mike. And then there's Magic Mike on the show as well. So I was going to call him Mike. But Leroy, when he fired the thing over, he went, as he fired it, he went, freedom! I thought that was just a funny thing to say. We're firing a key over a fort wall. It made me laugh.
So they go back into the cars. Trevon joins Donna and Mickey and brings up Kuzi having put 3 exclamation points when she voted Mike, wondering if it was a clue. But very psychic Donna thinks she was working with Leroy and was trying to frame Mike. In the other car, Gurleen gives her suspicion as Mickey, and Mike and Leroy jump on board because Mickey never tells them anything. And, I've said before, and I said earlier that I often forgot he was even in the game. And it seems from this whole episode, it seems like that's because he wasn't really in the game. It seems like he never gave anything to anyone. And I think that's basically why he almost never appeared on our screens.
Exactly right. The editors couldn't put him in the show because he never said anything that meant anything.
Yeah.
To other people. Yeah.
And now I think it's coming back to haunt him. Gurleen also tells us at this point, it's not a team game. It's survival of the fittest. Newsflash, Gurleen, it's never been a team game.
Yeah. Oh, see, you say that. I think anyone who plays it as a team game seems super faithful. Like if you were working together in the missions to earn the money for the group, right, as it was, you seem extra faithful. I think so. I think you should kind of see it, but you're absolutely right. You've got to be out for yourself. You've got to survive. Yeah, that's the game.
Yeah. I mean, the missions should be a team game because even if you're a traitor, you want the money in the pot. Yeah. That's how it's different from the mole in that, the whole goal of the mole was for the mole to sabotage. And it would be interesting to see some things like that. Like Australia season 2 started off with a special traders mission. Or was that yours?
It was our season.
That was your season. Sorry. It was your season. It started off with a special Traitors mission.
So I caught your lie, David.
That's
I got
right.
it.
Yeah,
that was
what
the
I would.
lie.
That would be what I lie about. Something on your season. That would be really bad. And I was hoping it would go like into a special pot, like only the traders get this money. But no, it went into the regular pot too. So that would be an interesting twist to make it so that the pots are not necessarily the same.
If it's a matter of we thought about this because I think about, I work on Taskmaster, so I think about missions and tasks and games all the time. And I was always thought of having a pot that was a set amount, but a certain portion of the money is going to go to everyone who was a traitor throughout the game, divided up, and then depending on whoever wins. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I think it's very interesting to have a mission where you could actually steal some of the pot for yourself.
Yeah, and then it would have made it interesting for like people who sabotage, and this one is Australian season 2, where there were certain people who were sabotaging missions for no reason other than they were, just I don't know. It's hard to explain Bad Sam.
Yeah. When it was a thing that would like you could get access to the armory,
right?
You'd be like, yeah, you can understand that.
Oh,
people
yeah,
are desperate to stay in the game. When it's just for literally no reason, or you get to drink a cold beer while walking up a hill, it's not. It really paints those people to be absolute d-bags, which is why it was quite good to be on screen at the same time as Bad Sam was, so that Good Sam and Bad Sam could live in polar opposites of each other. It was quite nice.
So getting back to Canada, once back at the manor, Mike tells Mickey that Leroy and Gurleen are leaning towards Donna, so lying. Mickey claims Travon is looking at Leroy, lying also. Leroy separately asks Mickey, somewhat bluntly, what's going on, and Mickey says he thinks it's Leroy himself, and he needs to explain why it's not. And Leroy is not impressed, and so he tells Mickey back that he's suspicious. So they're just flat out telling each other.
If you're a traitor and a faithful asks you who you think is a traitor, you're not saying the person you're talking to. Like, that's so dumb. You're saying literally anyone else because you know that person is a faithful. You're not going to gain anything from...
Right.
You're not going to feel threatened by that person or whatever. It's just a strange move on Mickey's part, I thought, at that moment.
Yeah. Travon tells Leroy his thoughts on the exclamation points and also thinks maybe the previous roundtable was the two traitors going after one another. Travon finally getting a clue. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, it's like, wow. Then he moves on to talk to Mike and admits he suspects Mike, explaining why. And Travon then adds, I know, I'm probably wrong, which, could have been his motto all season, except he's actually finally right now.
Yeah. He's nailed it. His problem is that he's said it to the people rather than keeping it to himself and just saying it to the camera and saying it to the other people there.
Yes.
If you think someone is a traitor, you should never tell them you think they're a traitor. You should say, I 100% think you're a faithful.
Right.
You and me need to work together. That's exactly what faithful should be doing.
Mike.
So close to mom. So close.
Yes. Mike surprises me because he says he didn't even notice that Kuzi had put the exclamation points there. And it's like, I guess in the heat of the moment, you don't, but I mean, everybody else watching, everybody else at the round table noticed it. So,
when it came up last episode, I was like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. That's a parting gift all over again. Yes. And no wonder Mike felt a bit miffed about that.
I mean, it's within, I know there's been debates about this, and Matthew and I have debated this as well somewhat. I think it's within the realm of what they're allowed to do. You're not allowed to say this person is a traitor. And, just as Mike was saying, you're suspicious, Kuzi. Kuzi, can put those 3 exclamation points in there. And
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it feels
yeah,
anytime late in the game, if a traitor gets voted off, pay attention to who they voted for.
yes,
It's kind of
definitely.
Colin did it. I was going to say Ari did it. No, who's the Karen did it in the UK version. Kuzi did it.
Yes, yeah. So Mike, Leroy, and Gurleen talk. Leroy thinks he's getting 2 votes, so they discuss voting as a group. And then Mike leaves, and Gurleen tells Leroy there could be a tie, and they need to plan for it. And she wants to vote Mike, even though I don't even understand the rest of this conversation, actually.
I think she, because I thought this was about Donna and who was the other person that voted for Mike? Oh, Mickey. They were going to vote for Mike. They had talked to Gurleen and Leroy about voting for Mike with them. So Mike could have been voted off 4-2 because Mike and Leroy were going to vote for Mickey. So Gurleen and Leroy could choose to go either way. They could either go and vote out Mickey or vote out Mike, who they think is a traitor. So they're thinking it's better to keep Mike in the game while they think he's a traitor so that he will protect them. And although they know that there's no murder
right.
there never is. And so they have to, they're choosing to keep the person who they think is a traitor in the game. Unexpectedly, they also get out the other blackmail traitor, which I think they're feeling they'll be really good there. So I think that's the reason where they're going to, even though that wouldn't be a split vote.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced Leroy thinks Mike is a traitor. I'm still going with that he doesn't, but he's letting Gurleen think that he does.
Okay.
So they go to the round table. Leroy opens by noting that Mickey never gives a direct answer. And somehow, in the time between Corrine saying it's time for you to talk and walking away, and the allegedly first question, Mickey's hair has gone from all the way down to in a bun. And we thought Mike was the magician, but somehow this just happens. But anyway, Mickey says again, that he suspects Leroy the most, but he doesn't want to vote Leroy, which takes what you had said was a bad thing to do and makes it even worse. So now he said it to Leroy, and he said it about Leroy, but he's also said he doesn't want to vote Leroy. So everybody else at that table has to be looking at him and going, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how Mike goes around and says why everyone could be a traitor.
Yes. Yeah.
It's such a weird thing to do. He's definitely sort of corralling the troops. Like he's very much that in control of everything, which is what Brooke did in our season as well. But it's maybe it's because I've seen that, I've witnessed that by personal experience, so that I was looking out for it. But it just, and maybe everyone else did it as well, and they just kept in that just when Mike was doing it. But I just thought such a,
he did the same thing last week. Well, he didn't do it. He said to Kuzi, he said, I could go around and say why everyone is suspicious, but I'm just going to focus on you instead. And this time he did go around. So some other things that happen. Trevon says he doesn't think Donna or Mickey would be able to handle the pressure of becoming a traitor via blackmail. And then in a confessional, he includes himself in that group too, which is good because I was getting ready to launch into a monologue about how terrible he would be under that pressure, but he recognizes it too. So,
he knew.
That leaves Leroy and Gurleen in his mind, probably because he still thinks Mike is an original traitor. Mike says they know there are probably 2 left, and that's what leads, like you said, to him going around. Now, he brings up something in going around. We don't have to go to everything he brings up to everyone, but he talks about something I remember Donna saying a few episodes ago, I think it was, that how she's willing to basically sacrifice herself so she can stand in the circle of truth and, proudly proclaim that she's a faithful. And, she re-ups this again and says She just wants a faithful to win. She doesn't care which one it is, which is ridiculous and goes back to this whole team game idea. It's not a team game. We are not playing Mafia. In Mafia, even if you get killed in the game, if your team wins, you still win. That is not the Traitors. You do not win if you are dead.
This is where I 100% disagree with you, David. This is the moment when Donna said that I was like, I'm Donna, because I said this exact same thing in the house as well. You get to the point where you've played as a faithful the whole time. The faithful are your team. You just don't know which of the people are your team. Once you get to that point, you're like, if I go, at least I want to do something that helps my team, in my case, the faithfuls, win this. So yeah, while you're 100% right, only one or a couple of people will win the prize, but you win it kind of on behalf of the side that you played for, I think. That's so funny that you said that, because it's the exact moment when I was like, I'm the Donna of this.
I think it's, I mean, I said it, I would describe it normally as like assigning morality to a game, like the good guys against the bad guys. But I think it's almost more, and I don't want to say it's in a way it's brainwashing. You know, like you have been
100%,
you have been put onto sides. And it's like the old Stanford prison experiment. You know, you've got the prisoners and the guards, and you've got the traitors and the faithful. And you take on those roles and you absorb them so much. So, you know, some people do more than others. That, I mean, yes, I can understand if you're going to go out, then yes, I could certainly see, okay, at least you want to help. But Donna's like, not just saying if she goes out, she's like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself to give another faithful.
Yeah. One of the things that I said, that I'm not sure if I don't think it made the edit. I said that the night before they're about to blackmail, I said, oh, because someone in the house asked, if you were asked to become a traitor, would you? And I think my memory is that Brooke asked that, which is that should have really put him out. And I said, at this stage of the game, even if I was blackmailed to become a traitor, I would act as an undercover agent and help the faithful win. That's the thought that I had at that time. This was 8 days into being separated from my family and having only this game to play. So I very much lost my mind at this point of the game. But that is a thing that I think, again, just when you're a faithful, you're spending the whole time trying to prove to other people that you're faithful as well. We saw Donna do it in the cars throughout the game a lot, and I just remember doing it. I remember after I'd voted out Kings, I was like, and he turned out to be a faithful as well. Kings had been quite vocally supporting me, being like, yes, he's a faithful. And I, throughout that next day, I was like, why would I have voted for Kings if I was a traitor? I'm clearly a faithful. And so you're always looking for those things. And yeah, so again, I've forgotten why the start of this point started with, but I like this show. I just, as a faithful, you very much lose your mind. And and I think Donna was doing very much, it rang so true to how my time on the show was like.
As for the rest of the reasons that Mike gives, they're mostly pretty standard. And then he says what we had talked about earlier about how, you know, they're quieter people who avoid conflict. Gerline says they should focus on the blackmailed traitor, which goes back to what you were saying earlier, and says it's probably someone who wouldn't be very good, so they wouldn't outsmart the OG traitor. She mentions Trevon, and he says he wouldn't be a very good traitor, which is true, but he also hasn't been a very good faithful. So with that, it's time to vote. At this point, I did not know where it was going. It was all over the place. Other than I noticed there was a confessional from Mickey saying, going in, Mike promised one thing, but he clearly had a different plan. And it was put in a spot where Mike had just said a few things to him that weren't terrible. And I was like, this is, I feel like this is his post-banishment confessional.
Mm.
and they accidentally tipped their hand. Production did.
I do that with every single confessional. I'm always like, when was this done?
Yeah.
Is this just after he's done it? Is it one from earlier in the day? If they're wearing a different set of clothes, oh cool, that must be it's from a couple of days ago. Or is it from the next day and they've moved it forward? Oh, so I'm always looking out for that. And yeah, I thought the same thing with that. It looked like he had sort of said that he was looked kind of a bit more cash, like he'd been voted out, and like I thought the same thing.
I try to do it in the Amazing Race also, because sometimes you can
Mm.
tell, like, as they're relating what's happened, you can tell, like, if they're smiling, okay, they probably made it through that leg. And if they're like,
Yeah,
if they're like talking like this, they might not have, it
yeah, that's
depends
right.
on how good of an actor or an actress they are.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, it is, like I said, it's time to vote. Mickey votes Leroy. Trevon says he wishes he had a rhyme or a reason for his vote, but he chooses Mike. Why start now for a rhyme or a reason? Gurleen goes with Mickey. Mike says he changed his mind from his original thought and goes with Mickey. Leroy does too, and Donna picks Mike. So Mickey, one day as a traitor, goes to the Circle of Truth.
Shout out to Robbie, who also spent one day as a traitor.
Yes. Says you can't win them all, but he's a traitor. And that's about it. Like, he doesn't try any coded messages or anything like that.
I fully respected him for that. I thought I think that's the way you should exit the game. Like,
right.
Because now in the house, everyone is going to be saying, man, was he a traitor from the beginning? Oh my gosh, if he did, he's an absolute genius.
Yes. Mike actually says that later. And so, yes, most celebrate. Trevon says he hates this game. And then the funniest part was Gurleen tells him to put his pen away. Probably because she doesn't want a replay of the previous situation where he threw it across the room.
Oh, that was fantastic. I love Trevon. Eh? Like he I think this is correct. He's never voted for the person that got voted out. I think still
that's correct.
Day.
And he says it later too.
Yeah, and that's which is the exact opposite of what I did in my season. I voted for the person who went out every single time.
Yes.
So I avoided the situation that Donna now has to face, having voted for Mike and having to live in the house, in the house with Mike straight away after this. It'd be so awkward.
Yes. Kareen walks in, tells them there's no murder tonight, which, as you said, they should know if they were paying attention. So basically, Mike is going to have to make his way through a round table and then two, I'm calling them fire pit votes. I don't know what else you would call them.
I call them the fire pit.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's not going to be easy either.
Yeah.
Now, I was surprised at how much time there was left after the round table, because after the vote, they all go to like a bar area to celebrate. Donna is disappointed in her gameplay as usual. Trevon says it's hard to celebrate when the person who was banished didn't even cross his mind, and that's when he mentions, like you said, he hasn't voted correctly yet. Though he says he could be correct about Mike. And he is. He, just like we said earlier, eventually you just run out of wrong people. Oddly, Mike says that while Trevon was coming after him, it's too late now. I gotcha, buddy. And I'm watching that and thinking, do you? Because I mean,
you're in a one-on. There are 5 people left.
Yeah.
You're the only traitor. Mathematically, you're not in a good place, Mike. That seems weird.
I mean, I think they scrambled some of the scenes here, and we'll get to that in a bit. But I think by the time Mike says that in confessional, he already knows the plan that Leroy and Gurleen come up with. So that we'll get to, which is to go after Trevon and Donna.
Trevon in the next one. Yeah.
But before then, this is one of the scrambled scenes. I think they separate out into different conversations. Mike tells Donna he's disappointed in her, which she understands. He tries to, get her back on his good side by saying he's played an honest game, but then tells us he can't wait to eliminate her tomorrow, which again tells me he must think he has someone else in his pocket. And Donna says she now suspects Leroy. Then we go to a conversation that appears to have taken place prior. And I say that because it seems like people are breaking up from the bar at this conversation that we're about to talk about, whereas the one with Mike and Donna was on a couch somewhere. So I think they just gave them to us out of order for some reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, Mike and Leroy speak, and Leroy tells us he's on the same page as Mike. And if they stick together with Gurleen, they can get rid of Travon and Donna. So again, this goes back to what I said earlier, that I think Mike feels he has pocketed Leroy. And like I said a little while ago, he's also peddling the idea that Mickey was an original traitor and I guess was an amazing actor who perhaps recruited Donna. Then Leroy talks to Gurleen, who says they should get Travon out first, and notes that even if he's a faithful, he's useless and not contributing anything. And then they say the same with Donna. So, you said I was hard on them, and I have been, I admit it. But it's good to have some in-game confirmation, of the same thing.
Yeah. The one of the things that I think was interesting that they didn't bring up to this point of banishing Mickey, just to go back a little bit, is the fact that the two people they voted out are Mel B and Kuzi. That's two females. Normally they're going to balance it up with a guy,
right?
Which is why I think Mike recruited Mickey over Donna or Travon. If there's another guy on the thing, it kind of, that sort of makeup of the traitors balance is something that they can help. But they haven't mentioned that in the show at all. Whereas that was something I thought about constantly throughout the show. I mean, if Lauren's a traitor, they're probably going to balance it off with having a male celebrity.
Yes.
And there were 4 of those that we sort of slowly worked our way through.
Yeah, and they did mention it earlier. There was some topic of conversation. I think it was Rick the Temp brought it up a couple times, like, oh, there must be a celebrity person there, and there must be this, and then it kind of just went away for a little while, and then eventually they got Kuzi, who was a Big Brother contestant, so she fit that bill.
Yeah. And so then you need to fill in the other part of that original triangle, and they've gone. And so at the moment they'll be thinking, oh, if it was Mickey, reality star as well.
Yes.
I guess they could fit in there.
Right.
In that realm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like continuing with the conversation of Leroy and Gurleen, after they agree to get rid of Travon and Donna, they say they'll get rid of Mike too, which I don't know if they're saying it because they think he's a traitor or not, because like you were saying, it seems like Gurleen knows he's a traitor. I think Leroy is convinced he's a faithful. So my read on this is that Leroy is closer to Mike than he is to Gurleen, and he's just agreeing with her at this moment. And when it really comes down to it, they're going to get rid of, Travon and Donna, and then he's going to join with Mike and get rid of Gurleen. That is my read on the situation here.
So you reckon Travon at the last round table, and then Donna at the fire pit?
I think they said Donna first. I think Gurleen was pushing Donna first.
Yeah, right.
So, but that could go either way. But I think Donna first, then Travon, and then I think that Leroy will join Mike in turning on Gurleen, and that then Mike wins.
Mike wins with Leroy being the Craig, spoiler alert, of Australia season 1.
Yeah,
man, that final, having been in that final decision.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask next. That
is the most nerve-wracking moment of my entire life. Just knowing that, man, this entire thing, 10 days we've been here doing this, I've managed to fluke my way here. Not educated fluke.
Yes.
My way there. You know that either of these people could have been lying to me. I need to make the right decision. If I make the wrong one, I'll look like an idiot. If I make the right one, I will get to do a podcast with the David Bloomberg. It's You know, it's
That's the
such
real prize here. Forget the money.
it's the real prize. It's the
yeah.
real prize. Yeah, man, it's just, and you, the close to the end of the show you get, this, it's a balance of being like, man, I can't screw this up now. Like, I've got, there's pressure on me. I've got to get this right. But also, man, if I go out now, it's well done to whoever has tricked me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you respect the fact that other people have played the game
Right.
so well to
Right.
get you to that point. So you know you can go out and be like, oh, hats off to you. Also, damn you, you
Yes.
piece of crap.
Yes.
how do you do it? But well done. But yeah, man, it's so frustrating, and it's all you think about. It's
Oh, I'm
you
sure.
you don't really miss your family and your loved ones because you're just thinking about this bloody game so much.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Matthew Keeley, the main host of the Traitors podcasts, told me he thinks this season will end similarly to yours, that the players will recognize that there has to be another traitor and realize who it must be, like you did, and they'll vote out Mike. So basically, Leroy will indeed be you and turn on Mike.
That's the feeling I get at the moment as well.
Yeah, I don't. I just don't. And here's another reason. From a pure edit standpoint, the only two people who have really had significant airtime have been Mike and Trevon. I mean, the others have gotten a bit more as the numbers have dwindled, but even so, I couldn't have picked Leroy out of a lineup for, several of the first episodes. Yeah. And, Gurleen was there, but I think I even commented, 1 week, like, of all the reality stars, she has had the least and the least, TV time. And even with the increased time, we know so little about those two. I just cannot see them being the two winners. And so that's another reason I think it's going to be Mike. I mean, you were featured in pretty much every episode.
Yeah.
Sometimes I, was like, why is he yelling at those people for the race?
Don't get. I had flashbacks to that during this. Oh no, I saw the Traitors Wiki on Wikipedia. They posted a video of a version of maybe the Hungarian one where someone gets angry at the end of a mission, and I was like, that's my spirit animal. Yeah, you know what it's like when people aren't playing as a team during the missions. Well, one of the reason that I kind of leaned into that a little bit more is that I thought I'd been too quiet at the going to that game. I knew I had to pitch myself somewhere in the middle. I knew I was drifting into this quiet zone at the bottom, so I sort of popped my head up a little bit. Also, it helped that I was genuinely a bit pissed off.
Yes, yes.
I think so. So sort of leant into that. But yeah, you're right. I feel like Leroy though has really come in more at the end of the show. But again, that might be a numbers thing as well.
I just still don't feel like I know that much about him. I mean, he's a firefighter.
Yeah, he's got a neck tattoo that looks like flames.
Yes, yes.
He looks like Magic Mike.
Okay.
the Channing Tatum, not
yes,
the,
yes, not the
wizard,
the other Magic
the wizard,
Mike.
magician.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't wait till I go and meet up with Mike in Toronto and I can find out all this stuff with him. It's gonna be great.
So
I've never been to Canada. I'd love to.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that's why I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I don't know.
They're good reasons. They're good reasons. I agree with what you said. I just I'd be quite happy if Mike won. Just I think he's earned it. I think he's played well. But again, the faithful in me is like, I would love for Mike to get banished at the next round table, and we end up with 4 faithfuls who then have to banish each other.
Yes.
Until there are 2 of them left, and they end up sharing it. That'll be amazing.
Yes, and that's one reason I don't like blackmail, because I don't feel like it's necessary. I feel like production, and I've talked about this before, probably several times over. So regular listeners are probably like, okay, enough already. We get it.
Yeah,
but
we get it.
But very quickly, I don't care if you go to the final 5 with 1 traitor or no traitors. Let them fight it out. Let them figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
And I think production is just so wedded to this idea that it's called the Traitors. There has to be a traitor in the final episode that they won't ever let it happen, which goes back to what you were saying about the blackmail being I mean, it's just such a blunt instrument in the game. It's like, you
Yeah.
must do this. You have no choice in anything
Yeah.
here other than literally quitting the game.
Yeah. Man, it was because I think there's been a season in the Netherlands where they ended up with just faithfuls at the end and voted some out. I haven't seen that, but I would love to see it in one of the English speaking versions. It's a
Yes.
again, it's another ending of a show that we've never seen before.
Right.
And that's why this format just keeps on giving. Like there are so many. Every ending of every show has been different from every other one.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes.
So great.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that,
Yeah.
that wraps up this episode. Before we finish up, I do want to let everyone know that we have other great stuff here on the Traitors podcast, both coming up and posted recent days. Still working on some interviews with the Traitors Canada players, had some email issues and U.S. Thanksgiving issues. So hopefully, it'll be a little delayed from when they got knocked out, but, we may still have those straggling off into the holidays here. We posted the 5th in our special series as Matthew and I are covering Survivor UK. It's not the Traitors, but it is a strategic social game where you stab people in the back. Matthew has never seen Survivor. I have covered the show for over 23 years. So we're looking at it through those very different viewpoints. This week, episodes 9 and 10. There were a lot of questions. He was like, is this normal? Is this the way it works? And then I was asking him things like, since he's in the UK, I was asking him things like, what is a bacon buddy?
Do you guys not have bacon buddies?
Well,
it's a bacon sandwich. They're delicious.
I mean, I have bacon sandwiches. I just wouldn't think to call them a buddy. And
it's
so
butty with teas.
Butty, yes, butty. And then someone wrote in and said, should they have had a full English fry up? And so I had to ask him what that was, which it turns out was a full English breakfast, which I had when I was in London at a B&B there. So there's these questions back and forth. And that's, so that we posted a couple days ago, covering episodes 9 and 10. And then next week for the finale recap, Matthew will join me here in the same way I have joined him for the finale of every other season of the Traitors that this podcast has covered, except yours, because we didn't. If we had
There's
known
still
you were
time to go back and do it.
I actually, as I've been sitting here, I've been thinking that. I'm like, I wonder if he would be willing. But
I would happily go back and live through that horrific experience. That was also the greatest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is it'll just be a matter of, timing, because I think both UK and USA versions of the Traitors season 2s are scheduled to come out in January. And
are they really?
Yes, and I hope they don't come out at the same time, because that may break us.
I wonder if they'll release America in one lot like they did last time, so we can just watch it in a weekend.
I hope.
I think it's a bad idea as well. Watching Canada come out week to week is much more engaging.
Yes.
And our one was over 5 weeks, which was still cool, but I think it would have been better if we'd done it over the 10.
Yeah, I mean, Australia and New Zealand, they do things weird with TV anyway. I mean, they do that with Survivor in Australia also, and multiple episodes of different length depending on which day. And so, I mean, from the selfish podcaster viewpoint, I wanted to come out weekly so that there's time to actually not just podcaster, because even if I wasn't podcasting it, I would still want to discuss it online on social media.
Yeah.
Whereas if it dumps all at once, it's like you really want to talk about it. Like, for Traitors USA season 1, I sat down and watched it in a day.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't talk to anyone.
And it means you can't remember all the different intricate little things that happened as well. Like, we didn't get to talk about the fact that someone dropped notes out of their skirt, which I can't remember what happened. Had someone done that? Was it? I can't remember who it was. Anyway, yes. And just on the idea of going back and doing the New Zealand season, that's a great idea. Everyone on the show would be keen to go back through it, maybe except Colin.
Yeah. It's just, so I really hope, especially with the way USA 1 ended, I really wanted to talk to people about the winner. And I couldn't, because it was a spoiler. And, I mean, I can't expect people to watch 10 hours of TV in one day like I did.
Yeah. Did you when 3-1? Were you stoked about that? Were you
Oh
were you
yes,
one of the people that were really
I'm a
going through?
I'm
Yeah.
a huge Suri fan.
Yeah.
You know, I've interviewed in my early days of running reality TV websites. I interviewed her multiple times.
Yeah.
I met her at a New York gathering one time, and you know, talked to her for a little while, and
Yeah.
you know, also met her son who was with her on Big Brother this season.
Big Brother, yeah.
And so yeah, I you
I
know, it was very nice to see her on the Traitors playing the game I knew she could play,
yeah,
not
great.
losing due to some stupid production twist, and
Yeah.
you know, actually being able to, you know, take it home there.
Yeah, that's cool. I had none of that in when I watched the show. But I did take one thing that she said, and I used it on our version of the show. She said it always paid to look confused all the time.
Hmm.
So I tried to do that as much as I could. So much to the point that the people on our show who are my friends, I work in like the same crew works
No, no,
on
no.
the Traitors than works on.
They're strangers. They're strangers. They're not, you know.
Yes, the crew who some people are probably directly related to me are strangers, and so much so that they after the show they're like, "Man, you always look so confused." Because we weren't allowed to talk to them, they were like, "I
Yes.
just wanted to come and give you a hug and make sure you're all right." And I was like, "I was kind of playing it up because Cerise said it was a good idea."
Yes. Yes.
Again,
So
genuinely, I was confused the whole time, so there was reason for looking at it as well.
yes. Yeah, I mean, people ask, you know, frequently, and I'm sure you've heard me say this, you know, if I had to rank it in order, where would I rank it? And I will always rank USA One as the top because of Suri. I recognize it as a
Yeah, wow.
purely subjective
Yeah,
ranking, but that's what I will do, and you know, I make no apologies for that.
yeah. It's do you know it's for me it's second to bottom.
I mean, I can understand why. I really can. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that Australia season 2, without spoiling it, is probably bottom. Um, and you know, I would hope that your season is top for you. Um,
Yeah, I'm quite fond of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I thought UK season 1 was just so awesome. It was
Mm-hmm.
just great. I loved all the characters. I thought there was a good mix of strategy and heart, and you know, you really felt like I really wanted Wilf to win some money, and
Yes,
I really wanted Aaron to do well for his mum. Like, yeah, it had that nice mix of heart, and that's what I tried to be the Aaron of our show. I wanted
yes,
to bring a bit of heart to it, as well, and because I just think that makes it just makes television better when you
yeah,
when you got these
yeah.
things
For
as
the
well.
strategy aspect, I really liked Australia season 1. I felt that the strategic
They were
maneuvering was very good
yeah,
there.
they were good. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, where can people find you if they want to, you know, chat with you online or whatever?
They can find me. I'm at Sam Smith Comedy. There's another Sam Smith who seems to have taken over a lot of the other Sam Smith stuff throughout the world.
It's
But yeah,
hard to
at
believe
Sam
there's
Smith.
another Sam Smith anywhere in
Crazy,
the
right?
world. That's such an
There's a
unusual
brewery.
name.
Yeah, there's a brewery named Samuel Smith as well, which is
Oh,
quite nice. And so yes, at Sam Smith Comedy on Instagram and Twitter and whatever Twitter's called now. And I think I'm on TikTok. I don't really use it, but yeah, just anywhere online. Sam Smith Comedy is the place for me, or
all
at my
right.
house. And I won't give you my address, but you can just find me at my house.
Well, yeah, people should probably find you online, not at your house.
That's right. Yeah,
Although, if they live in New Zealand and they're listening to this, they probably live within walking distance. So,
exactly right. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, all right. Well, now it's time to finish the Trader game.
Ooh. Ah.
Sam, did you lie to me?
David, I did. I managed to sneak in a little lie to you.
Uh-oh, because I lied to you as well. I have, as I said, I get too into the recap and I totally forget. So let me think here for a moment about what you said. It's probably something about your season, if I had to guess, because that would be something that I couldn't necessarily easily pick up on. That's as good as I can get. I'm going to say it's something about your season, and you've got me.
I'm so glad I got you. It is not something about my season.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to tell you what it was?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, one of the things you say every week is that you do, it's about order of magnitudes. If you did 8 pages of notes, you'd say you did 80. So I told you that I did 1 page of notes when really I did 10. I got you with your example.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. I should have known too, because you literally have had a Sharpie in your hand this entire time.
Yes, I have. I've been carrying that around. Although my notes I did make on the computer before.
Well, hopefully not with the Sharpie, because that's permanent.
I didn't use the Sharpie. No, I used the Sharpie to write down what I thought your lie was.
All right. What did you think it was?
Well, I really think you've got me, because I've only got one thing on my list. My list says David's lies, and I've written, man, did Mickey's hair actually go up into a bun in that quick shot? That is my one guess at what you did.
No, it did
actually happen.
It really did. And I had a feeling,
I had
a feeling by talking about that might distract you into the lie there. But that wasn't,
you got me well done.
So all I did, this was a little one. All I did, I said Donna was the 3rd one in for breakfast and Mike was 4th, but I reversed their order. Mike came in before Donna.
And we had just talked about Mike doing the foot thing beforehand.
Yes, I know.
Well,
I know. I was like, oh, he's gonna know because of the foot thing.
Well done. Yes, very well done. Yeah, you 100% got me there.
Yeah,
well, I should have noticed that. Although, in saying that, that's a 3-4 thing. That's not an order of magnitude.
No,
you should have said that she was the 40th
I said who came in first and then came later. There were other things I wanted to do that were order of magnitude, and I couldn't, because it was like I wanted to do something with the number of minutes that were there, or I wanted to do something. I can't remember. There was something else. I was like, oh, that's a number thing. I can't do it. So you got me with my own example. So that wins the prize, I think.
Yeah.
So
I really thought you were going to I very sort of awkwardly built up the fact that I used to be a dentist, which is true. With New Zealand. So I thought you were going to jump in on that. And then I said something else as well. Oh, just about how messaging all the people and Mike saying I could go stay with him in Toronto. Like that's all true. And I was thinking, oh yeah, these little things.
That I mean,
David Bloom.
The dentist thing, I don't know.
No,
it didn't occur to me that but then again, I had literally a friend and former coworker on here who said something about an old job he used to work that was a total lie that I should have picked up on, because it really it didn't fit with what I knew about him. And so I should have picked up on it. And as a matter of fact, Matthew, who edits these, while he was editing that one, he messaged me and said, oh, I picked up on your friend's lie. I'm like, well, I'm glad you did.
Oh, that's great. Hey, shout out to Matthew. Thank you for making a great podcast. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for making it. Please make New Zealand season 2 if it gets announced on Monday.
Yes. If it gets announced,
and get me in as a guest.
Yes, we will find a way to do that. So now that I am more accustomed to podcasting multiple shows, I was doing 4 shows at once for a little while there. So, and this is my 3rd day in a row of podcasting, because we had to postpone a previous one that I normally do on Fridays, had to postpone that to Sunday. So yes, we will find some way, whether it's me or Matthew or a combination of both of us. We will find a way.
Well, it's been an absolute honor getting to talk to you about it. So please involve me in that. I love the Traitors. I can't get enough of it. It's genuinely like therapy, getting to talk about it and live back through all this strange world we lived in about a year ago now.
Yes, and and thank you. And when we were messaging each other, you had said some things about me. You definitely wanted to come on. You heaped these compliments on me. I'm like, I'm gonna have to change my bio just to be the things you said about me.
Mate, you're the person who breaks down the show the best in the game. It's lovely to talk to someone who thinks about it as much as we did, maybe more than what we did when we were actually on the show losing our minds.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I do want to say anyone else who wants to reach out to me, you could find all my various accounts through my link tree at linktree/David Bloomberg, and there's a dot before the EE there. Or you can find me on most text-based social media like Twitter and Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. And on the video platforms, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram is at David Bloomberg TV. Speaking of TikTok, etc., I post at least 3 reality TV short videos on all those sites every day. Today, as it happens, before I did this podcast, I did 4 because I'm like, I've got to get these done before the next episode of Survivor US comes on. They're right now, they're a mix of US Survivor, the Traitors Canada, of course, Survivor UK, of course, Squid Games, The Challenge, and House of Villains. Those are the main ones that have been appearing on there. Also, you should make sure to check out the accounts for the podcast overall. You can find us on Instagram as at the Traidar Podcast and on Twitter as at the Traidar Pod. You can also email the Traidar Podcast at gmail.com. And if you'd like to help support the costs of publishing this podcast, you can drop Matthew a few bucks or, whatever they're called in the UK or Canada or New Zealand. Quid. You could do it at coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. I will be back here next week with Matthew. Hopefully everyone tunes in, and everyone should feel free to reach out through social media or as comments, on the YouTube version of this podcast or whatever else in the meantime. Until then, any parting words, Sam?
Yeah, I just want to say that when you brush your teeth at night, you should and in the morning you should floss before you brush. That's going to get all the gunk out from between your teeth, and then when you brush your teeth, the fluoride will flow in between your teeth and remineralize those bits. So it's actually really good for you. I actually have a book coming out in February called "Don't Scare the Dentist." It's a kid's book, and it's going to be really good. So if you want that and some other good dentistry tips, grab a copy of that.
All right. So you really
I also
were.
just want to, and I really was, and really am. And the other thing I'd like to say is Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a lovely holiday season, no matter what you celebrate.
All right, we're a little early for that, but okay. I don't know. I mean, I know that
disagree. You can.
Christmas comes a day earlier.
Thanksgiving, you can get straight onto Christmas now.
That's right. Sure.
Because we're small, we start celebrating Christmas in July. We don't really do Thanksgiving or Halloween too much, so we do it for the second half of the year. Also, it's in the middle of summer. It feels weird.
Yeah. You have to put fake snow out and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it melts straight away. It's yuck.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see everyone back here in a week for the finale. Until then, bye.